Okay, so get this. We've got this case study. It's wild. This Lithuanian creative director, Rokas Eltermanas, sent it to us, and his HR methods. Let's just say they're interesting.
Interesting might be one word for it.
Yeah, we're talking pepper spray, we're talking tasers, the whole shebang.
It's certainly not your typical HR playbook.
Definitely not. So picture this. The HR summit in Vilnius, Lithuania.
A who's who of HR professionals all gathered to discuss best practices.
Exactly. And then Rokas takes the stage and, well...
It's like a scene out of a movie. You've got this serious, buttoned-up crowd.
And then Rokas drops these, truth bombs about how he runs his company.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to make of it at first.
Yeah, is he putting on a show? Is he serious? It's genuinely hard to tell, which honestly is part of what makes it so fascinating.
Right. Is this satire? Is he for real? I mean, some of the things he talks about are so out there, you almost have to laugh.
Almost.
So, for example, he talks about this employee, Ramante, who apparently committed the heinous crime of, wait for it, leaving work at 6 p.m.
The horror.
Right, who hasn't snuck out the door at 5:59 when no one's looking.
Guilty as charged.
But, according to Rokas, that kind of behavior simply cannot stand.
And his solution was... pepper spray.
Pepper spray? He actually pepper sprayed an employee for leaving work on time.
His words, not mine.
Yep.
And then to add insult to injury, he tries to justify it by saying something like, well, no one died, right?
Okay, first of all, that's awful. Second of all, that's not exactly a high bar for success, is it?
Not really. I mean, I get it. Different workplaces have different cultures, different expectations. But this goes way beyond a difference in management style. This is about basic human decency, respect for your employees, legal boundaries.
Which Rokas seems to have a very, shall we say, fluid interpretation of.
Fluid is one way to put it.
And it gets even more bizarre, believe it or not, because in his keynote, he actually calls out his own HR department for having the audacity to question his methods.
Yes. Can you imagine being the HR rep in that meeting?
I would have walked out.
I mean, talk about an impossible job. But to be fair, they were questioning some pretty questionable stuff. For example, Rokas' decision to install spyware on company computers so he could monitor employee conversations on Slack.
Okay, whoa, hold on a second. What?
You heard that right. Spyware.
I mean, come on. That is so invasive.
Talk about a toxic work environment. And illegal, by the way. There are laws about this kind of thing. GDPR. Anyone.
Yeah, it's not exactly a secret that you can't just spy on your employees' every move.
Apparently nobody told Rokas.
It's almost like he's going out of his way to find the most extreme, most outrageous ways to manage people.
It's definitely a pattern.
And you know what? It gets even crazier from there. We haven't even gotten to the tasers yet. Tasers.
Oh yeah, we're getting to the tasers. But first, I think it's worth pointing out just how damaging this whole Big Brother is watching approach can be to a team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, talk about killing creativity.
Right. Imagine being an employee in that environment. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, worried about saying the wrong thing, even in a casual Slack chat.
It just breeds this culture of fear and mistrust, which is the opposite of what you want if you're trying to foster innovation and collaboration.
Exactly. And it sends this message that you don't trust your employees to do their jobs, which, ironically, can lead to them being less engaged and less productive.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You create this environment of suspicion, and then people start acting suspiciously because they feel like they're being watched all the time.
It's crazy, right? And then, as if the spyware wasn't bad enough, he hits us with his, what does he call it?
The taser-friendly conflict resolution system.
I still can't believe those words actually came out of his mouth.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. So he actually believes that using a taser on an employee is an acceptable way to deal with workplace disagreements.
That's what he said. His logic was that a little electric shock could help recalibrate employees who were being too emotional.
Okay, first of all, ouch. And second of all, are we not going to talk about the fact that this is assault? You can't just go around tasing people.
Exactly. Not to mention the legal ramifications. Can you imagine the lawsuits?
It blows my mind that anyone could think this is okay, let alone an effective management technique.
And yet here we are.
It's like he's living in a different reality, one where workplace safety regulations and basic human rights don't exist.
And the saddest part is he seems to genuinely believe that he's doing the right thing. He actually presents data, albeit highly questionable data, claiming that productivity increased after he introduced the threat of the taser. Which, even if it were true, completely misses the point. You can't force people to be creative and productive through fear and intimidation.
Exactly. Real leadership, especially in a creative field like his, is about creating a space where people feel safe to take risks, to experiment, to even fail sometimes.
It's about fostering a culture of trust and respect, something that seems completely lost on Rokas.
Totally. And this is where I think the role of HR becomes so crucial. Because when you have a leader who operates like this, it's often the HR department that has to step in and say, hey, hold on a minute, this is not okay.
They're the ones who are supposed to be looking out for the well-being of the employees, both legally and ethically.
Precisely. And frankly, they deserve a raise after dealing with someone like Rokas. 100%. So for anyone listening who might be thinking, well, this is all very entertaining, but it's not like I'm ever going to encounter someone like Rokas in real life.
Think again. While Rokas might be an extreme case, the truth is that toxic leadership can manifest in many different ways. And it can be a lot more subtle than someone threatening to tase you if you don't meet your deadline.
So where do you even begin to address something like that? I mean, if you find yourself in a workplace where the HR department is having to, field exorcism requests, what can you as an employee actually do?
Well, I think the first and most important thing to remember is that you have rights. You have the right to feel safe at work, the right to be treated with respect, and the right to speak up if you feel like those rights are being violated.
That makes sense, but speaking up can be really difficult, right? I mean, it can be super intimidating to challenge someone in a position of authority, especially if you're worried about, your job security.
Oh, absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to speak truth to power, and there's no guarantee that doing so is going to lead to, immediate change. But I think it's important to remember that silence only benefits the oppressor.
So how do you go about it? What's the best way to approach a situation like that? You don't want to just barge into your boss's office with a list of demands and a hidden recording device, right?
Probably not the best strategy. I think it's about picking your battles, documenting everything very carefully, and trying to find allies within the organization who might be willing to support you.
And if that doesn't work, what then? I mean, there are external resources, right? Labor boards, unions, even legal counsel if you need it.
Exactly. You are not alone. There are systems in place to protect employees, but I think ideally it shouldn't have to get to that point.
Right. It would be great if we were having these conversations about ethical leadership and employee rights, before things escalated to the point where someone felt like they needed to bring in a lawyer or a priest.
100%. And that's why, as much as we've enjoyed, dissecting the, shall we say, unique management style of Rokas Eltermanas.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. But I think the real takeaway here, the thing I hope people will really think about, is the importance of cultivating a healthy work environment from the ground up.
So what does that look like in practice? If we could wave a magic wand and create the ideal workplace, what are some of the essential ingredients?
Well, I think it starts with leadership.
Yeah.
You need leaders who value open communication, transparency, accountability.
Those are good things.
They really are. And you need to create a culture where people feel comfortable speaking up, sharing their ideas, even making mistakes without fear of, being punished for it.
It sounds like trust is a big part of that equation.
Huge. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and that includes the relationship between employer and employee.
And part of building that trust is making sure that employees feel heard, respected, even when, or maybe especially when, they have dissenting opinions.
100%, because disagreement doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? In fact, it can be incredibly valuable if it's channeled constructively.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the, let's call it unconventional asterisk world of Rokas Eltermanas, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Whether you're the CEO or, just starting out in your career, we all have a responsibility to create a more humane, more ethical, and ultimately more productive workplace.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, you don't need pepper spray or tasers or, Vatican-certified exorcist to be a good leader. In fact, I'd say those things are probably a pretty good sign that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, those are some major red flags. On that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. What kind of leader do asterisk want to be? And how can you contribute to creating a workplace where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to do their point work? Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.